Hello and good morning to the Pleasure for Health podcast. My name is Ailsa Kepi and I am your host today. I haven't been on here for quite a while, so I'm really looking forward to having this chat today because we are going to dive into the topic of control and control in relationships. So, when we try to control others, and where does this come from? How does it affect our relationships? Why do we try to do this? We're going to look at all those types of questions because this is something that I have noticed coming up over and over again with both couples that I work with and also just people that come in for sessions with me. They're often talking about relationships in their lives that either have too much control, that feel controlling, that they're trying to desperately hang on to control in some way in their life. And in my personal life, I also am seeing this come up quite a bit. So I thought it's worth, really hashing out here in our podcast. So welcome, and if you want to find out more about me or see previous episodes, you can check out my website, pleasureforhealth.com. And on there, you can find my podcast and also my blogs and other ways to get in touch with me. So let us look at this. This is something that many of us don't really want to look at as far as our own self. We are quite happy to look at other people and say, hey, that person's trying to control me, or why are you trying to control me? I don't like that. But it is really tough to look at our own self and see our own version of attempting to control others. So I'm just going to ask you to ponder for yourself, is this something that you find that you do in your relationships? Can you notice when you're, saying to your partner, why did you do that? I wanted you to do it this way. Or, I told you that I liked this other type of food. Why are you cooking that? All of these very subtle kinds of control that just start filtering into our conversation. And it seems like that's not me trying to take control, but really we're doing it, and it can feel a little bit like, it feels a little bit different depending on what gender you are quite often. That's an interesting kind of notion. I don't know if it's because different genders actually do this differently or we just are socialized differently. So if you are genderless or you have other genderqueer kind of setup, then you may kind of find where you fit in all of this. But what I find as a socialized woman is that my type of control often comes across as nagging. Why did you do that? Like, why didn't you do this? Like, when are you going to, do the thing that I asked you to do? These kinds of questions that are over and over again. And what I notice about myself when I'm making those types of comments is that there's some feeling that I'm having, some emotion that I'm personally having in my own self, has nothing to do with the other person or the fact that they have done or not done whatever it is that I'm nagging them about. I have a feeling in my body, and I am using the nagging or using that controlling kind of talk to try and offload my feelings onto the other person. Like, I don't want to feel stressed, or I don't want to feel anxious, or I don't want to feel that I did something wrong at work. And so I'm going to come home and nag my partner. And so it has a certain energy. And I don't know if you are really honest with yourself. You may notice that when you are nitpicking on your partner, you may find that, there's days where you don't do that at all. So you're like, well, I don't do this all the time. Sometimes it doesn't bother me that they didn't do this my way, or that we didn't, that he didn't get up and use the toothbrush in the right way or whatever. So why is that? Then it's something to do with us. We are feeling different, and we're trying to control the world around us in order for us to feel better. And so this, depending on how we feel. So if we feel bad or anxious or depressed or fearful, most of the time, we may end up being a controlling type of person most of the time and using that kind of control so that when you go to your committee meeting, you're trying to get everyone to sit in the right place, and then you're trying to control who makes the coffee, and then you're trying to control the agenda, and then and if you're honest and you ask people and they're willing to tell you honestly, they may say, yeah, it feels kind of like we never get to have a say about how we'd like to do things, right? So you may get some feedback about that. If you're with a partner, you may notice that you most of the time are subtly trying to manipulate or control them because you don't want to take responsibility for your own happiness. And I'm going to say that again. When we're trying to control everything around us in this way that I'm describing, mostly we are wanting to offload the responsibility for our own emotional state. We want someone else in the world out there, if we could just control them and if everyone just did the things the right way, we would feel okay. And so herein lies the definite thing that we want to notice, is that we need to learn how to feel okay without needing to control everything around us. And that's not saying that, if you're having a great day and everything is going your way, I certainly hope you enjoy it and have gratitude and feel good. But that shouldn't be a prerequisite for you feeling happy. So we all have a choice when things are going badly and all of that. We still have a choice about how we feel about that. We may feel sad, we may feel afraid, we might have colleagues walk out on us in a meeting. We might feel afraid that we've offended them and that we're going to get fired and that our business is going to collapse, and we're going to, we might have fear, and then we start wanting to control those people. You get back here right now or else, kind of thing, because we're actually afraid that if they don't like us and if they don't sit in the room and have the conference meeting with us, we don't have a business anymore. There can be that fear behind it. But if we, that fear is our fear of losing a business or a relationship. If our partner walks out on us, what if they walk out on the marriage? What if they don't come back? I'm afraid, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm whatever. These are all our feelings that we could definitely take responsibility for. And, all of those reasons make us want to try and control the world around us as a potential way for feeling better. I don't think it works that well, typically, because most people don't like to be controlled. And the natural world, basically, is not controllable. It'll find some other way to be uncontrolled. And so, trying to control the world around us is a losing battle, right? As many of us know who are control freaks, it's like you just work and work and work, and things still don't go your way, and then you feel worse than the feeling you had in the first place. So I think that that's a big reason that I see. And so when I work with couples, I noticed with a couple recently that came in, we worked with this idea, of the one, in this case, the female, it was a female male couple. So the female was, wanting to speak for the male, wanted to kind of outline everything that the male should do in this couple, that if he would do this and this and this, and if he wouldn't do this and that, then our relationship would be good. And I could relax and I could be, And herein lies the ... What is that? What is the fear behind, in this case, her? What is her fear in the relationship that is causing this need to try and control him to do all of these, come in for therapy or act a certain way before or after intimacy or say certain things or be a certain way? Why is she wanting that? Like, what is the drive for that? And, most likely, I don't know yet because I haven't worked with this couple in depth yet, but potentially she is afraid that he might not be who she wanted him to be, and that's either going to mean that she has to learn to love him the way he is and let go of her version of who he should be, or she's afraid that she's not lovable, or she's not somehow worthy of him. He won't change for her, so therefore she's not worthy. Many of us have that program that we need to look at as well. So, there's a fear there, the fear that he might not care enough, the fear that he won't change, and that will force her to make a really tough decision. Because in this instance, she's like, if this doesn't happen, I'm not willing to stay in this relationship the way it is. So either he has to change or I have to change, right? Or they both have to change. And so she would really love if he just changed to be what she wanted, and then that would fix it, right? And I think we all do that to a certain extent. It would be great if the other person changed so that we'd feel comfortable and had what we wanted. And so the really enlightening and growth promoting part of relationships is that doesn't usually happen, right? That we are not going to get the other person to change and just be who we want them to be. They're going to be their own person, and they have their own life path. And so it becomes this dance of intimacy, really. This dance of trust, this dance of intimacy, this dance of, well, I'm going to give up a little bit of what I'm kind of doing so that I can be there for you. You're going to give up a little bit of that to do something for me. You're going to grow in this way and offer this. You're going to grow in that way and offer that. And there's this, cooperation about moving forward. So, when you work in a couple, it's often the one who is being really controlling, who seems like they're needing to control the whole outcome of the therapy or outcome of the interactions, is really afraid. They're usually really afraid of something. And so it's important to get to the bottom of what are they afraid of. Now, the person who's being controlled might also have fears about the relationship. They might have other feelings. So there's definitely work on both sides. But just for today, I thought we'd mostly look at the controlling behavior. So why else might we have this type of control input? We want to be controlling. We might have abnormal social expectations. I think that's such a great line. We might have abnormal social expectations. What does that mean? What does it mean to have abnormal social expectations? Well, again, I can kind of talk from my own experience and say that my expectations of intimate relationships were based on watching my parents, who I don't think really had a great intimate relationship. They nagged each other. They fought kind of constantly in a bickering sort of way. It wasn't like an all-out fight, but there was a lot of bickering. So it didn't seem very relaxing or nourishing or congenial or just any of those things. So I had that as a potential to look at, and then I had movies and books and fairy tales. I was big into fairy tales, and so at the time, there was this happily ever after, like you find the perfect person and you live happily ever after kind of thing. And you might think, okay, well, we all read those, but we grow out of that. But have we really grown out of those expectations? Because for myself, I was mid-20s and I happened to run into someone who kind of fit the bill of this, handsome prince. And I fell head over heels in love with the idea of a handsome prince who was going to carry me off and do have an amazing life. And I don't think it really had much to do with who he was, that my partner at the time. It had more to do with what I was expecting. So I had an abnormal expectation because I wasn't actually really looking at who this person was or what culture they came from or what were their experiences in relationships or family. What did they want? I just looked at the idealistic vision and fantasy that I had in my own head, and I was like, oh, I'm in love with that. So let me go there. And, we may have abnormal social expectations that, maybe there's a gender thing that, these people, my secretary will, make me coffee and make me feel comfortable and nurture all of my clients before they come into the office. I think a lot of business owners and have that subtle expectation that their admin person or the person on the front desk is going to do all those things. Now, is that a normal expectation? Well, maybe. Have we clarified that as part of the position? Sometimes. But most of the time, you don't really say to someone, well, I expect you to emotionally work to make people in a good mood by the time they come in to see me, to always be happy and gracious, and to look after me, and when I'm in a bad mood, to make me feel better. We don't usually hire someone saying that's what we want, although many of us would love to have an admin person who would do just that. But let's be clear about it. So those are a couple of, abnormal social expectations. We might expect that men will be able to earn money and will be responsible for the paying of the bills and all of that. Maybe that's true, maybe that isn't, but is that actually an expectation that we can have at this point, given that none of us really learn that stuff in school? Probably not. So it's interesting to look at, what are your expectations? Really, really write them down, like, clearly. Like, what are you expecting of your partner or your intimate person? Because it's quite enlightening when we actually look at that. I have to laugh sometimes when I, tell my daughters are grown up now, and sometimes I'm joking with them about my new partner. I'm like, yeah, I expect him to have my breakfast ready for me at the time that I've asked, and it's like, well, he also offers that, so he's very sweet, but it easily becomes an expectation that I could just take advantage of, and so then if he doesn't do that one day, I have to alter my expectation, right? And I have to be open to doing that. Otherwise, there's problems, right? So these abnormal social expectations can lead to us trying to control someone. This lack of empathy for someone, if we don't really care about them that much, if we're kind of narcissistic, we might just be like, well, I don't care if you only got 4 hours sleep. Like, it's your job to get up and get the kids off to school or do whatever. So we could just have a lack of empathy. There could be a lack of personal autonomy, and this one also is back on us. Is if we don't feel very in control of our lives, we may, like I said, sort of in the beginning, we may try to control other people to try and feel more in control ourselves. And this comes up quite a bit when I work with couples where one partner maybe has a job where they really don't feel in control and they're very unhappy in their work. And then when they come home, if there's any tinge of unhappiness with them or something like that, this huge rage comes up because they're like, I don't get to do this, like, nobody listens to me, and all of this stuff starts coming out. And really, this has very little to do with the personal relationship. It has a lot to do with the person's job. And so another thing that is really important to get clear about when we're coaching with clients that are in relationship but also have other social interactions at work or whatever, is that we're actually separating out, well, where are you feeling this pressure? Where are you feeling that you have no autonomy? If it's everywhere in your life, if you have no autonomy at work, you have no autonomy in your personal relationships, you don't feel any autonomy anywhere, then that's probably a real nudge, more than a nudge, to get some therapy and to really rethink your life and your choices. Maybe you need to get a different job. Maybe you need to really figure out who you are, and are you in the right relationships or the right job to actually allow yourself to grow. And that doesn't always mean you have to blow up your life, but it means you have to really take responsibility. So that lack of autonomy can come from other places and just kind of spill over into our relationships. And the last one, sometimes we have an inflated sense of responsibility. Now, this can come from a number of reasons, but this inflated sense that I have to be responsible for everyone, that somehow I have to do it for them because they can't, or I know that they need me to do this, and so I'm going to have to do this. This is my responsibility. And I do see this with mostly men, that they feel, I have to earn the money, I have to make my wife happy, or my partner happy, I have to make my kids happy, I have to support everyone, I have to make the money, I have to, keep the house well, restored, I have to take care of the lawn. They have this inflated sense of responsibility. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do some of those things, but if this sense of responsibility is over and above, and they never take responsibility for their own needs and wants, and so you ask these men or these people, what would make you feel good right now? What is it you want? And they can't answer you. They don't know, because they're so worried about being responsible for everyone else that they've basically just stepped over their own dead body, to be a martyr for everyone else. And being a martyr never worked really to empower a relationship or yourself or anything, except, if you become if you want to become a statue and have people come and make pilgrimage to you maybe later on. But for the most sense in this lifetime, being a martyr doesn't work, because it doesn't help other people know how to help you. It doesn't help that co-working relationship, because you're always just making the controlling decision to say, I'm going to be the responsible, it's my responsibility, and then taking away anyone else's possibility to join in. So I think we sort of have covered that a lot of this controlling behavior comes from a lack of our own sense of self. It comes from a fear or a sadness or some type of emotion that we're not contemplating, that we're not acknowledging in our own self. It comes from this unrealistic expectation that we are not actually seeing the people in front of us or ourselves in a realistic way. And it's maybe coming from a wanting to feel comfortable by making everything out there suit us. So we want to control in that way. So there's a lot here that is really interesting. And until we actually delve into some of what is actually going on in the relationship, many couples can't get past the initial part, because even if we teach how to interact, let's say we teach them about sex toys, or we teach them about how to communicate, what kind of touch you want, if the person is still being controlling and the other person is still being controlled, and that's not a negotiated thing, it's not a kind of negotiated dom sub kind of relationship, then we have an issue, and the actual intimacy or the relationship is not going to improve until we really look at the individual's fears or emotions or feelings that are going on in their life. So I just noticed that this is coming up quite a lot at the moment. So I don't know if it's part and parcel of the world feeling kind of uncontrollable right now. And so most of us have a fear or a dread of being wiped off the planet, or of climate change suddenly, drastically rising the sea level and our house disappearing into the ocean. I don't know what our fears are. We probably have a lot of them. And so we're trying to overcome all of these existential type of fears by controlling people around us. And if that is affecting your relationship, or if any of the things I've talked about hit home in any kind of way, I would love to have a chat with you and see if we can help you reach out and start looking at some of these issues in our own self, because really it comes down to that relationship with our true self will help us to have a better relationships with others. So that's I think probably good for today. It's been such a pleasure being back here with you all, and I look forward to trying to be a little more regular in the coming weeks here, at least once a week, getting on here and talking about any relationship and intimacy questions or dynamics that I'm noticing. If you have something you specifically want me to look at, please do reach out. You can reach me at pleasureforhealth.com, leave me a message, reach out, book a call. I would love to chat to you. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day.